أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. سبحان الله والحمد لله ولا إله إلا الله والله أكبر ولله الحمد. الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. أشهد أن أمير المؤمنين وإمام المتقين عليا ولي الله. أشهد أن أمير المؤمنين وإمام المتقين عليا حجة الله. حي على الصلاة حي حي على الفلاح حي على خير العمل حي على خير العمل الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله لا إله إلا الله بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اللهم اشف بارا ونساء وشفاء وسيدا واولاد ابرارا وجعلني تبع نبيك محمد صلى الله عليه واله وسلم مستغفرا برحمتك يا ارحم الراحمين
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله الذي كان موجودا قبل حدوث الأشياء ويبقى بعد فناء الأشياء تفردت الأولية والقدم ووسم كل شيء ما عداه بالفناء والعدم كما قال الشان كل شيء هالك إلا وجهه قال كل نفس ذائقة الموت وقال كل من عليها فان ويبقى وجه ربك ذو الجلال والإكرام سبحان من لا يخفى له اختلاف النيات ولا يعزب عنه ما أصل العباد في الخلوات سبحان الله الذي منه خلقة العباد وإليه المعاد فمن يعمل مثقال ذرة خيرا يرى ومن يعمل مثقال ذرة شرا يرى نشهد أن لا إله إلا هو الملك الذي لا ينازع في ملكه ولا يضاد في حكمه يؤذي من يشاء بما يشاء كيف يشاء ويرحم من يشاء بما يشاء كيف يشاء تعذيبه المسيئين عدل وعفو تفضل ونشهد أن محمدا سيد المرسلين وخير المبشرين والمنذرين صلى الله عليه وآله الهداة المهديين من ركب سفينته نجا واهتدى ومن تخلف عنها ضل فغرق وهوى أوصيكم عباد الله بالاعتصام بالتقوى فإنه حبل متين وعروة وثقى فقد قال الله تبارك وتعالى وقوله الحق وهو أصدق القائلين بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل إن كنتم تحبون الله فاتبعوني يحببكم الله ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم والله غفور رحيم صدق الله العلي العظيم السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. The verse that I recited is the same which I had recited last night in the Masjid-e-Ali. As we continue in these ayyam in which we commemorate the martyrdom of Khatun Jannat, the daughter of Rasulullah, wife of Amir al-Mu'mineen and the mother of Hassanain alayhi salatu wasalam, Janab Fatimah al-Zahra, salamullahi alayha. And under this ayat, we briefly discussed some of the attributes of this great lady. The ayah begins by saying, Qul, O Prophet, tell them, in kuntum tuhibbuna Allah fattabi'uni. If you love Allah, then follow me. Allah will love you and forgive your sins, and Allah is forgiving and all merciful. Of course, there are many aspects of this ayat, and one of the aspects of the ayat is the love which is being mentioned over here. One of the desires that Allah has instilled in mankind is the desire to love, whether a place, a thing, or a person, an object. We innately love many things and are fond of them, but our fondness changes over time. It's not that we're stuck to loving something that we began loving in the beginning of our life and we hold on to loving that thing. That's why the criterion changes every now and then. For example, a child in young age is fond of toys and playing games. And when they get older, their passion changes, the love for things changes. The toys that they were using when they were infants or that early in their life, they're no longer attracted to those toys anymore. They move on to something more realistic for them, right? Which appeals to them. And therefore, as they grow older and older, their fondness towards these other things change. For example, when they get older and they're able to read, they might be now into reading. So you're joking yourself, right? No, they're not into reading. I wish they were into reading. Now, for example, they're into books now, and it is mandatory, for example, from a school that they have to read this amount of books, fiction or nonfiction. Then they look forward to starting school when they get older, because they see their older siblings attend school, and sort of like an objective for them that they want to start right away as well, but realizing that they're too young for school. So their love changes over time. Now that they're having this attraction toward the school and joining the school, the moment they join it, they realize, no, it's not really that much fun, and they no longer like it, for example, right? Depends on the environment that they get in the school and the peers that they develop and all that stuff. So you see that within those first 10, 12 years of life of a child, how many changes have come about, that his love from one thing to another drastically, gradually changes over the period of 5 to 6 years. And these changes happen every so often. So when this educational progress or the process advances, they're fond of getting degrees. After getting a degree, they might want to get another degree. Maybe after that, they want to get a suitable job. And then once the job is settled, now they want to maybe build a family. So their priorities are changing. Their love for things and different things as they develop is also changing. As the person advances in his or her age, their spirituality also starts increasing. Now that has to do a lot with how much they were exposed to spirituality and a spiritual environment when they were younger. As they're exposed to the, I'm going to use the word secular environment, then they become fond of it as they grow older, and they look for things, materialism, materialistic things. Of course, the objective behind getting education could be good and could also be semi-good, that, I want to make sure I earn this degree so that I can earn a lot of money, for example, rather than thinking, no, I want to become a physician so that I can do khidmat khalq, serve the community, serve the people, for example, or many other aspects of their, professional outcome. So as the person advances in their age, likewise, how they're changing in their things that they're fond of, and the love of different things is coming about, their spirituality also starts increasing. And then they start detaching themselves from things which they ran after all their lives. Now, a very small example, a child who's now, 10 or 11 years old, you throw in front of them a toy which is appropriate for a 3-year-old, they will discard it. They won't even have anything to do with it. Say, no, I don't want to play with this. While you were running after it when you were 3-year-old, and you were begging for it, and you wanted to have it, and you didn't want to share it with anyone. Now, when you're 10-year-old, you don't have anything to do with it. You ran after it. Now you don't want anything to do with it, realizing that that was just the phase that they were going through, and that thing was the most attractive thing to them. So therefore, we start detaching ourselves from these things which we ran after all our lives. Now there's a misal, and there's a message which is hidden under all of this. We reflect on our own lives as we grow older, and our lives then start to decline. We start thinking the same way. I was running after this. Now look at, I see all these youngsters, they're running after this. I want to go ahead and approach them and tell them there's nothing to go after these things. This is just temporary. You don't have to worry about. But of course, at the time when a person is doing this, these exhortations do not really play much role. For example, majority of the questions that I get from the elderly women these days, and the questions that I get from younger folks these days, there's a difference. And as far as the questions are coming about, for example, those who are elderly, those who are old, their questions revolve around, Malana, mustahab salat. Wajib ko to dur ki baat hai, wajib to kar liya. There's, they're done with the wajibat. Now they want to know about mustahab salat. Okay, what are the other mustahab salat that we can offer, for example? What du'as can we read before and after the namaz, for example? Or during the day, for example? Is there any specific dua that is recommended that we haven't recited all our lives that we should be starting? Or is there a specific book which is, about different namaz that exist? Well, the children might be asking questions, when it comes to Is it allowed for us to invest into cryptocurrency or not? Is it allowed for us to engage into this business or not? Is it allowed for us to, for example, consume this or not? Their questions are in that direction, which is also genuine, nothing wrong with that. And the questions when they get older are more toward the connection that they have with their Rabb, their Lord. Ibadat, for example. So this is something which is, just out there, which is something which is so obvious. At this age, their intensity for spiritual deeds increases. And the sense of charity and infaq fi sabilillah also rises. So what is something that we are in these days, ayyam, commemorating the shahadat of Bibi Fatima Zahra, salamullahi alayha. Remember, keep in mind, she only got to live for 18 years. What is it that she was fond of throughout her life? She says in her own kalam, حُبِّبَ إِلَيَّ مِن دُنْيَاكُمْ ثَلَاث. There are three things from your world that I dearly love, that I'm really fond of, that I'm really attached to. Number one, tilawatu kitabillah, the recitation of the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this can only be understood when you start understanding the kalam of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَالنَّظَرُ فِي وَجْهِ رَسُولِ اللَّهِ, and looking at the face of the Holy Prophet, Hazrat Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. وَالْإِنفَاقُ فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ, and spending in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So three things that she dearly loves in this world. One is recitation of Quran, because you won't be able to recite Quran in the hereafter. Second is infaq fi sabilillah. There's no infaq fi sabilillah in the hereafter, for example. Yes, looking at the face of Rasulullah will be possible over there as well for her. But for us, out of these three, that which is possible for her in this world and in the hereafter is not possible. We can't look at the face of Rasulullah. We can't see him. Those people who have drawn up the imaginary pictures of Rasulullah, don't trust them. Those are not true. But you can't see the Holy Prophet, but you can see the tajalli and the mazhar and the manifestation of the Holy Prophet in the Imam of our time, Imam Mahdi Ajjalallahu Ta'ala Farajahu Sharif. Right? So while that Imam is around you and is amongst you, there's a possibility that you will see the Imam of your time. And when you do see him, it is as if you have done the ziyarat of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So regarding this elevated maqam of the Holy Prophet, of course, Quran, when it talks about قُلْ إِن كُنْتُمْ تُحِبُّونَ اللَّهَ فَاتَّبِعُونِي, Rasulullah is making this claim. He's saying that, follow me. Why? Because Allah has addressed this. مَن يُطِعِ الرَّسُولِ فَقَدْ أَطَاعَ اللَّهِ. Whoever obeyed the Holy Prophet, indeed obeyed Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's why the love of Allah is associated with the ittiba and the following of Rasulullah. It says, إِنَّ الَّذِينَ يُبَايِعُونَكَ إِنَّمَا يُبَايِعُونَ اللَّهِ. In those people who are paying allegiance to you, O Prophet, in reality, they're paying allegiance to who? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So whatever you do with the Holy Prophet, it is as if you are doing it with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Similarly, whatever Rasulullah says, it is as if these are the kalam and the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. A person asked our sixth Imam that we name our kids after your names and the names of our forefathers. Is there any benefit in that? A question arises regarding what do we name our children? Imam recited this ayat. In kuntum tuhibbuna Allah fattabi'uni. Answer was that, oh Imam, we are naming our kids after your names, your children, your forefathers' names. Imam said, in kuntum tuhibbuna Allah fattabi'uni. If you love Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then follow us. Then do our ittiba. So this naming itself becomes what? Ittiba ma'asum. In other words, naming your children after the names of ma'asumeen is basically showing love toward Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Claims are merely claims until shown through the actions. So fattabi'uni is that very important. I wanted to go into the discussion towards the end about how the acts that evolved, because a lot of time these historical facts are lost in the recitation of Masa'ib. So while these are the words of Masa'ib, but we want to look at the historical aspect of the Musibat of Fatima Zahra. That based on authentic narrations, Amir al-Mu'mineen buried Bibi Fatima at night. This is Musallam, this is known. Hidden from the eyes of public with only a few close companions, as I will recite the Arabic riwayat so that the names of those companions are also mentioned. This was then following the will and the wasiyat of Janab Sayyidah. And I will recite this wasiyat as well. There are certain historical references that allude to the fact that some people became angry after Amir al-Mu'mineen had gone ahead and buried Janab Sayyidah at night and without informing people. And they wanted to go ahead and dig the grave up so that they get an opportunity to go ahead and perform Salatul Janazah on the daughter of Rasulullah. That would be with their way of expressing love toward her. The day after her burial, Muslims in general became aware of her shahada because it wasn't something which was going to remain kept quiet and it remained, like a secret. It was eventually going to get out. So the news got out. People found out that she had passed away. They went towards the graveyard of Baqi and they found 40 new graves and couldn't tell which one was Fatima's. Because Amir al-Mu'mineen was aware of this. This is where the ilm ghaib of Ma'soom is there. That he dug up enough graves so that people would have to dig up all of these in order to go ahead and find out which one is the grave of Fatima Zahra. People started weeping and blaming one another that the beloved daughter of the Holy Prophet died and we didn't even get to attend her janazah. Suggested that call the women here and ask them to dig the graves and extract the body so that we can go ahead and offer Salatul Janazah. You understand that when the house was attacked and Amir al-Mu'mineen was dragged out of the house and he was taken, by force, he was being asked for the allegiance, which of course he refused. And along with him, all those people were with him. They refused as well. Surprisingly, Talha and Zubair were there too, who refused to pay allegiance because they were with Amir al-Mu'mineen. What happened afterwards, that's another story. But those were the two who were with, standing by Amir al-Mu'mineen. And 5, 6 other people who were of the similar stature. Their status was above ordinary companions. Therefore, their allegiance mattered. Now, a lot of time people have difficult time understanding that a warrior, that a brave person like Amir al-Mu'mineen would allow people to drag him like this on the streets without showing any, standing up for it, without defending himself. Now, of course, someone is dragging you, you're able to defend yourself. So they have a hard time believing in that. While the riwayat are authentic in this regard, and Amir al-Mu'mineen also mentioned that in Nahj al-Balagha, it is mentioned in one of the khutbahs, Imam talks about this, that what happened to him. And he explains the situation that took place. But of course, recalling this, he talks about it and he lets this happen for a bigger cause, which I will mention what Imam said. So people started weeping that we didn't attend the janazah. Some elderly suggested, let's get women to go ahead and dig the grave. When Imam Ali became aware of this plot, he became furious, grabbed his Zulfiqar and went to Baqi and said, by God, if anyone removes one stone of these graves, I will fight with every single one of you. If anyone touched any of these stones that are placed, because back in the day, you just put a stone on a grave, I will fight with every one of you. Second caliph was there and said, oh Ali, what have you done? Why did you deprive us? And then hinted that we would open all the graves. Imam said, the only reason I didn't raise my voice, nor did I raise my sword when you were dragging me out of my house, when my right was usurped, is because I was afraid of fitna in community. Meaning what? That people will leave their faith and religion and deen if I was to go ahead and raise my sword, because some people think that Khalifa was chosen rightfully. And if I was to go ahead and fight for my right, then there would be split in the madhab and deen, and many people will leave this deen which Prophet had brought to its height. By God, the one in whose hands Ali's nafs is, if anyone looked at these graves with bad intentions, I will spill their blood. But this here is a different matter. Over there was a different matter. This here is a different matter. How is it different? Reasons why Imam didn't allow exhuming of the grave of Fatima Zahra. Number one, it's haram. In Islam, many of these people were unaware of the Islamic laws that even after the Khilafat Rashida that began, the 25 years of silence, Imam continued to guide them because they were unaware of many of the rules and the laws of Islam. Exhuming a grave is haram. Nabsh qabr is haram and forbidden. Number two, it was the wasiyat of Janab Sayyida to be buried in this way. You have to execute the wasiyat. Number three, Islam was not at danger if Ali rose his sword for this matter. Islam was at danger if Ali had raised his sword at that matter. So there's no danger over here. He's fighting for something which belongs to him, that is the grave of his wife. Number four, keeping them from desecrating the graves. Unfortunately, that desecration continued. Today, you see the Wahhabis have raised the graves of Imams in Baqi, and there was a possibility similar might happen at that time. So these are some of the historical facts which sometimes get lost in the recitation of Masa'ib. Here I'll share with you very quickly, as I'm running out of my time, some of the requests by Janab Sayyida to Amirul Mu'mineen. Number one, first thing she said to him was, before passing away, "Oh Ali, remember me." That means what? Ya Abul Hasan, lam yabqa li illa ramaqun min al-hayat wa hana zaman al-rahil wal-wida fastami' kalami fa innaka la tasma'u ba'da dhalik. Not much time is left. I'm breathing my last few breaths. Now listen to me, because you won't hear this voice ever again. Usika ya Abul Hasan an la tansani wa tazurani ba'da mamati. Simple request. Oh Ali, do not forget me. Remember me often and continue to visit my graves. If visiting of the graves was forbidden, then why the daughter of Rasulullah would go ahead and make this suggestion to Amirul Mu'mineen? Number two, she asks Amirul Mu'mineen, "Idha ana mittu fatawalla anta ghusli." If I died, you go ahead and perform my ghusl, you go ahead and perform my takfeen, you go ahead and do my tajheez, you go ahead and offer salat, you go ahead and enter into my grave, bring me down to the grave, wa alihidni, and create my lahad and put me into the lahad, wa sawwit turab, and you go ahead and pour the sand on top of it, alayya, wajlis inda rasihi, and then sit on my head, fa akthir min tilawati wa du'ai, fa inna sa'atun yahtaju al-mayyit fiha. Then sit on my grave, read Quran and dua alongside my graveside. Why? Because every person is in need of the recitation of Quran and dua after they have passed away. That's her second request. Number three, she says, "Istawdi'uka Allah wa awsika fi waladi khayra." Wishing you, bidding you farewell, and wasiyat regarding my children, that treat them well. Now she knows that Ali will treat them the best, but still from a mother's aspect, this wasiyat is coming. Look at the words that she said first, requesting him to remember her, visit the graves, recite Quran on top of the grave, and take good care of my children. And then giving the permission that after I die, go ahead and marry Ba'di bi'ibnati ukhti Umama. Go ahead and marry Umama, daughter of Zainab, was raised by Rasulullah. Janab Fatima called her to be her sister. And last moments of her life, she says, "Idha tawaffaytu la tu'lim illa Salma wa Ayman wa fidda min al-rijal ibnayya wal Abbas wa Salman wa Ammar wal Miqdad wa Abadar wa Hudhayfa wa la tudfinni illa laylan wa la tu'lim qabri ahada." This is the wasiyat of Janab Sayyida. She said, now after I have passed away, don't inform anyone of my wafat except Salma, except Ayman, Fidda, and as far as the men are concerned, of course, my children, Abbas, Salman, Ammar, Miqdad, Abu Dhar, Hudhayfa, and don't bury me except at night And also, don't let anyone find out where my grave is. And the sad story is that until now, we don't know the exact maqam of the grave of Fatima Zahra, salamullahi alayha, salawat Muhammad wa alihi. So this is as far as her wasiyat. Of course, this is not the complete wasiyat. I will inshallah mention some of the words of her wasiyat in the majlis tonight, which will be at 7 p.m. So do attend the majlis. That we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us the tawfiq to make the wasaya in the same way that Janab Sayyida is making. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that we are the recipient of the shafaat of Janab Fatima Zahra on the day of judgment in Nahas al-Hadith. وأبلغ الموعد كتاب الله. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله الذي لا إله إلا هو الحليم الكريم غافر الذنب وقابل التوب وهو الغفور الرحيم. سبحان من سبقت رحمته غضب وبسط اليدين بالرحمة. سبحان من لم يكلف نفسا إلا دون وسعها وفاني السيئات ولم يجاز بها. سبحان من لا يزداد ولا معصي بعد إلا كرما وجودا ولا كثرة الذنوب إلا فهو صفا. نشهد أن لا إله إلا هو ولا طوف على العباد بجوده ولا بعض المظلمين بحلمه. ونشهد أن محمدا نبيه وحبيبه سيد المرسلين وشفيع المذنبين بعثه رحمة للعالمين. ألا قد أمركم الله في محكم كتابه بالصلاة على نبيه وحبيبه فقال تعليما لكم وتشريفا للصفية إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. اللهم صل على سيد المرسلين وشفيع المذنبين نبينا محمد صلى الله عليه وآله وعلى إمام المسلمين وقائد الغر المحجلين أمير المؤمنين علي بن أبي طالب صلوات الله وسلامه عليه وعلى سيدة نساء العالمين وبذرة خاتم النبيين سيدتنا فاطمة بنت رسول الله صلوات الله عليها وعلى الحسن المجتبى والحسين الشهيد بكربلاء وعلي بن الحسين ومحمد بن علي وجعفر بن محمد وموسى بن جعفر وعلي بن موسى ومحمد بن علي وعلي بن محمد والحسن بن علي عليهم الصلاة والسلام. اللهم صل على مولانا صاحب الزمان ما هي آثار البدع والطغيان هادم أبنية الشرك والنفاق حاسد فروع البغي والشقاق صلوات الله وسلامه عليه وعلى آبائه الكرام اتصلت الليالي والأيام. اللهم عجل فرجا وسهل مخرجا واقعل ناظرنا بنظرة منا إليه واجعلنا من المستشهدين بين يدي وتفضل على أمراء المؤمنين بمزيد التوفيقات وازدياد الإقبال وعلو بالدرجات. اللهم افعل بنا ما أنت أحلو ولا تفعل بنا ما نحن أحلو بجاه محمد وآله المعصومين صلوات الله عليهم أجمعين. ممن يتقي الفضل ذكرا الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون. الله أكبر الله أكبر. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله. أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله. أشهد أن عليا ولي الله. أشهد أن عليا حجة الله. حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح حي على خير العمل حي على خير العمل. قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة. الله أكبر الله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم يسبح لله ما في السماوات وما في الأرض الملك القدوس العزيز الحكيم هو الذي بعث في الأميين رسولا منهم يتلو عليهم آياته ويزكيهم ويعلمهم الكتاب والحكمة وإن كانوا من قبل لفي ضلال مبين وآخرين منهم لما يلحقوا بهم وهو العزيز الحكيم ذلك فضل الله يؤتيه من يشاء والله ذو الفضل العظيم مثل الذين حملوا التوراة ثم لم يحملوها كمثل الحمار يحمل أسفارا بئس مثل القوم الذين كذبوا بآيات الله والله لا يهدي القوم الظالمين قل يا أيها الذين هادوا إن زعمتم أنكم أولياء لله من دون الناس فتمنوا الموت إن كنتم صادقين ولا يتمنونه أبدا بما قدمت أيديهم والله عليم بالظالمين قل إن الموت الذي تفرون منه فإنه ملاقيكم ثم تردون إلى عالم الغيب والشهادة فينبئكم بما كنتم تعملون يا أيها الذين آمنوا إذا نودي للصلاة من يوم الجمعة فاسعوا إلى ذكر الله وذروا البيع ذلكم خير لكم إن كنتم تعلمون وإذا قضيت الصلاة فانتشروا في الأرض وابتغوا من فضل الله واذكروا الله كثيرا لعلكم تفلحون وإذا رأوا تجارة أو لهوا انفضوا إليها وتركوك قائمة قل ما عند الله خير من اللهو ومن التجارة والله خير الرازقين الله أكبر اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد ربنا افرغ علينا صبرا وثبت أقدامنا وانصرنا على القوم الكافرين بجاه محمد وآله الطاهرين الله أكبر سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمد رب صل على محمد وآل محمد سمع الله لمن حمده الله أكبر سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده رب صل على محمد وآل محمد الله أكبر أستغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه الله أكبر سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده رب صل على محمد وآل محمد الله أكبر بحول الله وقوته يقوم ويقعد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد الله أكبر سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده رب صل على محمد وآل محمد سمع الله لمن حمد الله أكبر وربنا افرغ علينا الصبر وثبت أقدامنا وانصرنا على القوم الكافرين بجاه محمد وآله الطاهرين الله أكبر سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده رب صل على محمد وآل محمد الله أكبر أستغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده يا لطيف ارحم عبدك الضعيف. الله أكبر. الحمد لله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. السلام عليك أيها النبي ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام علينا وعلى عباد الله الصالحين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. الله أكبر، الله أكبر، الله أكبر.
إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم
صل على محمد وآل محمد. تسبيح جناب فاطمة الزهراء سلام الله عليها. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. واستغفر الله الذي لا اله الا هو الحي القيوم الرحمن الرحيم ذو الجلال والاكرام واتوب اليه. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم كن لوليك الحجة ابن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك طوعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم صل على
Let's recognize the sponsors for today's Jummah lunch, the family of Brother Nisar Raza and Yasmin Raza. Please recite us Surah Fatiha for their deceased relatives as well as your Surah Fatiha. Inshallah, very quickly tonight we will have the second witness for the commemoration of the Fatimiyya. Inshallah, maybe the program starts sharp at 7 p.m. with Hadith Qissa for Rasul's Marcia. Last night program was longer because of Shahid Muharram. We had Hadith Qissa, document, and the waters at the end. Tonight we won't have document and the waters, so the program will be much concise and short. So do attend this program, of course, as there's a rise in the COVID cases. Also do take precaution when you come in here. Keep your masks on all the time on your nose and mouth. You know, if you're not feeling well, you can always tune in online and watch the programs live, stream, and when you're here, avoid shaking hands and hugging and all that stuff. And make sure that you are vaccinated and you're coming in so that you are not at danger either when you come across people who might be exposed to COVID. With that said, let's recite Dua Sahat for all those people who are suffering and going through a difficult time. Suffering from COVID, suffering from other illnesses, and those quick recovery, inshallah. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Amma yujibu al-mustarra idha da'ahu yakshifu as-su'. Amma yujibu al-mustarra idha da'ahu yakshifu as-su'. Amma yujibu al-mustarra idha da'ahu yakshifu as-su'. أما يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه يكشف السوء أما يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه يكشف السوء يجعلكم خلفاء الأرض إلهكم مع الله قليلا ما تذكرون. اللهم صل على tomorrow and Sunday, inshallah, we will have Salatul Fajr here, 6 a.m. Following Saturday, you'll have the group recitation of Quran and Tafsir, and then have breakfast is served downstairs. And similarly on Sunday morning, after 6, Salatul Fajr, followed by recitation of Dua Sabah, Ashura, and then inshallah we will have for hot breakfast. So you're more than welcome to come and join us for one of these programs, starting at 6 in the morning. الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن عليا ولي الله أشهد أن عليا حجة الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح حي على خير العمل حي على خير العمل قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله. صلاة العصر. الله أكبر الله. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الله أكبر. سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده سمع الله لمن حمد الله أكبر. سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. الله أكبر. أستغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه. الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. الله أكبر. بحول الله وقوته يقوم وأقعد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الله أكبر. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. ربي أدخلني مدخل صدق وأخرجني مخرج صدق واجعل لي من لدنك سلطانا نصيرا. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. الله أكبر. سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده. سمع الله لمن حمد. الله أكبر. سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. الله أكبر. أستغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه. الله أكبر. سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. الله أكبر. الحمد لله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. بحول الله وقوته أقوم وأقعد. الله أكبر. سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. الله أكبر. أستغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه. الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. الله أكبر. بحول الله وقوته يقوم ويقعد. الله أكبر. سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. الله أكبر. أستغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه. الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. يا لطيف ارحم عبدك الضعيف. الله أكبر. الحمد لله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. السلام عليك أيها النبي ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام علينا وعلى عباد الله الصالحين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر.
إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما.
اللهم صل على محمد وآله. اللهم صل على محمد
وآله اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
تسبيحات بالدعاء الأخيرة. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. أستغفر الله الذي لا إله إلا هو الحي القيوم الرحمن الرحيم ذو الجلال والإكرام وأسأله أن يتوب علي توبة عبد ذليل خاطئ فقير بائس مسكين مستقيم مستجير لا يملك لنفسه نفعا ولا ضرا ولا موتا ولا حياة ولا نشورا. اللهم إني أعوذ بك من نفس لا تشبع ومن قلب لا يخشع ومن علم لا ينفع ومن صلاة لا ترفع ومن دعاء لا يسمع. اللهم إني أسألك اليسر بعد العسر والفرج بعد الكرب والرخاء بعد الشدة. اللهم ما بنا من نعمة فمن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
السلام عليك يا رسول الله، السلام عليك يا نبي الله، السلام عليك يا حبيب الله، السلام عليك يا خيرة الله، السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله، السلام عليك يا رسول الله، السلام عليكم وعلى جدك وأبيك وعلى أمك وأخيك ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام عليك يا غريب الغرباء، السلام عليك يا معين الضعفاء والفقراء، السلام عليك يا شمس الشموس وعينيس النفوس، أيها المدفون بعرض الدوس الإبن صلى الله ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام عليك صاحب الأسر والزمان، السلام عليك إمام الإنس والجان، السلام عليك شريك القرآن، أجل الله تعالى فرجك وسهل الله مخرجك ظهورك وجعلنا من أعوانك الصالح ورحمة الله وبركاته.
فاتحة. الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. نبي رسالة يا رسول الله. يا هدي يا هدي.